Back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you a question about how you learn.
Okay.
Think about the last time you had to pick up a new skill. Maybe, I don't know, fix a running toilet, bake sourdough.
Or learn some Python coding, maybe.
Right. Where did you go?
I think I know the answer for about 90% of us.
Yeah.
You go to YouTube.
You go to YouTube.
Or maybe, if you're really serious, you buy a structured online course.
Exactly. We live in this golden age of the tutorial. It's a transactional model. I have a gap in my knowledge. I find a vendor, a video, a book, whatever. I extract the data I need, and then I close the tab. It's efficient. It's clean.
And you never think about the teacher again. You don't usually have a deep emotional bond with the guy who taught you how to change your spark plugs.
Definitely not. Not in a 5-minute video. But today, we're exploring a system of learning that is so far removed from that, it feels like it belongs to a different species of human experience.
A whole different universe.
We're looking at a relationship where the bond is so intense, so biological, that the teacher might physically tremble just remembering their teacher.
That's it. We are diving into the Gur SHishya parampara, the master-disciple lineage in Indian classical music.
And to guide us, we aren't just looking at, Wikipedia definitions. We are unpacking a specific, incredibly profound talk given by the legendary vocalist, Dr. Ashwini Deshpande.
And what's so amazing about her talk is that she isn't really giving a music lesson.
No.
She's giving a lesson on how human beings transmit a soul connection from one generation to the next.
Soul connection is the perfect phrase because this gets heavy and it gets heavy fast.
Oh, yeah.
There is a story she tells right at the beginning of her talk that just completely sets the stakes. It's not about scales or rhythm. It's about a moment of pure terror and awe.
It's the story about her practicing with her guru.
Yes.
And let's set the scene, because the environment really matters here. This isn't some modern soundproof studio.
No AC, no ergonomic chairs. Exactly. This is back in the day. No electronic tampuras droning in the background. No metronome apps.
Just the raw acoustic reality.
Totally. Dr. Deshpande is sitting on the floor playing the tampura herself, and her guru is sitting there keeping the teen towel.
The 16-beat cycle.
Just by tapping on his knee. It's incredibly intimate, just the two of them. And he's sitting casually, leaning his back against a metal cupboard, and Almari, he's listening to her sing Raga Shri.
And Shri is a very serious, very mysterious raga. It's heavy.
It is. So she's singing, and she's waiting for the feedback. She's waiting for him to say, stop your flat, or do that again.
Which is the standard expectation,
Yeah.
You perform, you get critiqued.
Right. But he doesn't correct her. Instead, something bizarre happens. She looks over, and her guru is shaking. And I don't mean just tapping his foot. She says his whole body was physically trembling, shivering against that metal cupboard.
Wow. Just imagine being a young student in that moment. You revere this person, they're your guide, and suddenly they seem to be losing control.
She panicked. She stopped singing immediately, touched his shoulder, asked, "Sir, what happened?"
And nothing.
No answer. He was just gone. Totally checked out of the present reality.
That's terrifying.
So she literally runs to the kitchen to find Guru Ma, the guru's wife. She's thinking this is a medical emergency, a seizure, a heart attack. She's frantic.
Right, asking for water.
And the way Guru Ma reacted is where this story just pivots. It goes from medical drama to something, I don't know, spiritual.
Because for Guru Ma, this wasn't an emergency at all.
Not even a little bit. She wasn't worried. She just calmly said, "Oh, give him some water. He'll be fine." She explained that he had become bhavibhor.
That is such a potent term, bhavibhor.
Let's unpack that. What does it actually mean?
Well, literally, it's something like being overcome with emotion or saturated with a state of being.
But emotion feels too light, doesn't it? We get emotional at a sad movie.
This was visceral. Guru Ma explained that a specific phrase Dr. Deshpande sang had triggered a memory of his own guru.
So he wasn't just hearing a note. He was hearing his teacher's voice echo through her.
Exactly. And the recollection was so intense, so physical, that it just incapacitated him. The memory of his teacher was a living force in his body.
Dr. Deshpande says she learned a massive lesson that day, that this tradition isn't just about technical perfection.
No.
It's deeply emotional. She mentions that sometimes he couldn't even sing on stage because his throat would choke up just remembering his teacher.
And that's our first aha moment right there. In the Gur SHishya tradition, you aren't just downloading data. You are stepping into an emotional lineage. You're inheriting a love so strong it can make you tremble.
But, okay, this raises a practical question then. If the music is so tied up in this deep, unwritten emotional connection, how do you actually teach it? How do you transfer that specific tremble?
That's the core challenge. And Dr. Deshpande argues that this is exactly why Indian classical music is an oral tradition. You cannot write this stuff down.
I find this fascinating because in the West, we love documentation. We want the sheet music, the tabs, the PDF.
If it's written down, it's official.
Right.
But here, the real essence is in the things that define notation. Dr. Deshpande lists these specific technical terms that sound almost like a secret code. Mand, katka, murky, gamak.
I love the sound of those. So take mend. That's a glide between notes, right?
Yes. But if I write on a piece of paper, glide from note A to note B, that tells you almost nothing.
Is it fast, slow, a straight line, or does it curve?
Exactly. Or gamak. That's a heavy oscillation on a note. But how heavy? How wide? Dr. Deshpande uses this brilliant metaphor from cooking to explain it. She calls it the namak.
The salt.
So the salt of the note. Imagine a recipe that just says add salt. A master chef knows exactly what that means for that dish.
But a novice could ruin the whole thing.
Right. You can't write down how the pinch feels. She talks about the attack of the note, too, how you approach it.
Is it soft? Is it aggressive?
She calls that the internal rhythm or the internal aesthetic. These are micro details that determine the entire mood. If you wrote them down as standard notes, you'd flatten the music. You'd kill it.
So if you can't read it and you can't just be told about it abstractly, there's only one way to learn it.
Mimicry. Blind. Absolute imitation.
This is what she describes as the first stage. And honestly, this part of the talk made me laugh.
It is funny, but it's also deeply serious. She says the student has to be like a photocopy machine. You listen and you replicate exactly what the guru does.
But she points out this hilarious side effect. Students focus so hard on imitation that they stop distinguishing between the art and the person. They start copying the guru's physical mannerisms.
The unintentional copying.
Yes. If the guru waves his hand in a circle when he hits a high note, the student starts waving their hand too.
Even if the hand wave has nothing to do with the sound.
But it gets even better. She talks about the flaws.
Oh, right. If the guru is elderly, maybe he has a rasp in his voice or a little cough.
The student copies the cough.
They think the cough is part of the raga.
The master coughed on the high C, so I must cough on the high C. It's absurd.
It sounds ridiculous, but think about the psychology. It's total surrender. The student is emptying themselves completely. They aren't filtering anything because they don't yet know what to filter.
It reminds me of how toddlers learn to speak. They pick up their parents' accent, their slang.
Even their stutter sometimes. They absorb the entire package. And Dr. Deshpande connects this to a specific composition, a bandish in Raga Shri called Batiyan Darawat.
Batiyan Darawat. What's the story there?
It's a composition about a disciple's yearning for the guru, that desperate need for connection. And she uses it to make a philosophical point. We hear the spiritual idea all the time, the guru is inside you.
Look inward to find the truth.
Yeah, sounds very enlightened.
But she argues, practically speaking, you can't start there. You can't find that internal guru until a living, breathing, biological human being shows you where to look.
You need the external figure to wake up the internal one.
Precisely. And this emphasis on the biological reality of the teacher leads to what I think is the most powerful metaphor in her entire talk.
Oh, the womb. Yes. She compares the guru's tutelage directly to a mother's womb.
It's such a layered analogy. It works on so many levels: time, biology, safety, and separation.
Let's break down the time aspect first. She does some philosophical math here. She says a baby is in the womb for 9 months.
Right. And if you live to be, say, 80 years old, 9 months is a tiny blip, less than 1% of your life.
And she compares that to the time a musician spends as their guru. Even if you study for 10, 15 years, compared to a 50-year career on stage, it's maybe 10%.
But, and this is the key, just like the womb, that short period determines everything.
The DNA phase.
Totally.
She talks about chromosomes. You cannot deny the genetic code you inherit from your parents. And similarly, she says a musician cannot deny the sanskars, the values, the foundations, implanted by the guru. They are permanent.
So even 30 years later, on a stage in New York, improvising something brand new, that genetic code from your guru is still dictating how your reflexes work.
It is the invisible architecture of your art. You can paint the walls, but the foundation, that was poured in the womb of the guru's training.
But this brings up a tension. The womb is safe, it's comfortable, but you can't stay there.
If you stay in the womb, you die. or at least the art dies. And this is the painful part of the tradition she outlines. She maps out the evolution of the student in 3 stages.
Okay, so we covered stage 1, the photocopy, holding the finger, walking exactly where you're told.
Then comes stage 2. This is where the lights turn on. She calls this developing vision.
Vision, right.
You stop just mimicking and you start understanding why something is beautiful. You gain the ability to self-correct. When you're practicing alone at 2 in the morning and you make a mistake, you know it. You become your own monitor.
And then stage 3.
The break.
The inevitable separation. She says the student must leave the womb. They have to let go of the finger.
And the way she describes this new relationship is really striking. She says the student stops following behind and starts running parallel to the guru. That is a massive shift in the power dynamic. You aren't a subordinate anymore. You're a peer. And this is where she introduces the concept of Vimarsh.
Vimarsh, that means discussion, right?
More than that, it implies debate, an exchange of ideas. At this stage, the disciple can actually converse with the guru. They can say, I see the raga this way, or what if we tried this?
They can even disagree.
They can even disagree. Imagine that, to look at the person whose coffee you used to copy and say, I have a different perspective.
But that's the goal. Dr. Deshpande is saying the tradition only lives if the student adds their own life force to it.
Exactly. If you just clone the guru, the art stagnates. It becomes a museum piece.
Which leads us to the part of the talk that I found the most humbling. We're calling it the philosophy of the 90%.
This really hits home. She says there comes a day when the guru looks at you and says, okay, you're ready. Go perform. You're done.
And the student is probably thinking, I've made it. I'm a master now.
And they couldn't be more wrong. Dr. Deshpande says at that moment, the student has only received 10% of the knowledge.
Wait, 10%. After all that, after the trembling, the years of service, the imitation, that's all you get.
That's it. Because the guru's job isn't to give you the forest. The guru's job is just to plant the seed.
So where does the other 90% come from?
The other 90% is Maya.
Okay, usually Maya translates to illusion. But she's using it a bit differently here, isn't she?
She is. She's using it to describe the elusive, constantly expanding nature of knowledge. She describes it as a circle, as the circumference of your knowledge grows.
The perimeter of your ignorance touches more vastness. That is such a powerful image. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Exactly. When you're a beginner, your circle is tiny. You think, I can master this in a year. But as you push into that 90%, the horizon just keeps moving away from you. It creates a lifelong hunger.
And she says the guru cannot walk this part of the path for you.
No. They can give you the map. They can give you the compass. But they cannot hack through the jungle for you.
She uses the tree imagery again here.
Right. The guru plants the seed, but the student must nurture it into a tree through their own sadhana, their own struggle, their own practice. If the student doesn't do the work, the seed just rots.
It really reframes the whole role of a teacher. I think we're often guilty of wanting teachers to just hand us the finished product.
We want the shade without the watering.
Perfectly put. But she's saying the Gur SHishya parampara is entirely about accepting the responsibility of growth. The guru instills the capacity to learn, not just the facts.
Which brings us to the closing of her talk.
Yeah.
She wraps it up by referencing another bandish, this one sung by her own student, Ravati Kamat. It's in Ragyaman.
Guru Bintyan Nahi.
There is no knowledge without the guru.
It's a paradox, isn't it? After all this talk of independence, of leaving the womb, of finding the 90% on your own, she brings it right back to the source.
It's the ultimate gratitude. You can fly as high as you want. In fact, you must fly high. But you have to acknowledge that without that launch pad, there's no flight.
It connects right back to that first story. That guru shaking against the cupboard. He wasn't weak. He was acknowledging his source.
He was feeling the roots of his own tree, remembering that even though he is a master, he was once a seed planted by someone else.
So, as we close out this deep dive, here is the thought I'm left with. We often define a good mentor as someone who makes things easy for us, someone who breaks complex things down into bite-sized chunks so we don't have to struggle.
Dr. Deshpande challenges that definition completely.
Right. Is a true mentor actually someone who isn't afraid to be difficult, someone who forces you to copy them until you hate it, just so you have the foundation to eventually disagree with them?
Someone who loves you enough to kick you out of the nest.
Exactly. Maybe we rely too much on being taught and not enough on the terrified, exhilarating work of learning. That 90% is out there, but no one can give it to you wrapped in a box. You have to go get it yourself. That's a scary thought, but it's also a very liberating one.
Something to chew on the next time you open a YouTube tutorial. Thanks for joining us on Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.